We're about halfway through tonight's Democratic debate in Las Vegas, and so far it has been a fierce one. I want to get straight to our panel of CBSN political contributors. Democratic strategist Lynda Tran is in the spin room there in Las Vegas, and veteran Capitol Hill reporter Molly Hooper is here with me in New York. Lynda, I'm going to start with you. Since we left off last time, we saw former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg actually be booed by the crowd when talking about the non-disclosure agreements that cover some of his former employees. Were you surprised at his response there?
Well, I wasn't surprised by his response, but I was surprised that he hadn't worked on it more. And I think the delivery is critically important here. We're not talking about NDAs and this alleged sexist behavior at any time in history. We're talking about it in the wake of the Me Too movement, as Harvey Weinstein is on trial for the allegations that were levied against him. And I think that the world, this country, and women expect a lot more direct response to any type of this kind of behavior. And so I have no doubt that that is going to be the clip that is replayed time and again in the analysis of this debate. And it was a strong opportunity for Joe Biden to step in, and clearly a strong opportunity for Elizabeth Warren to take the issue by the horns and really call it out for what it was.
Molly, do you think that it was interesting that Joe Biden piled on, given that he has been accused of inappropriate touching at some points?
Well, you know, yes, he has, but the way that Joe Biden dealt with it was by saying, "I'm so sorry," and it's Uncle Joe. You know, I mean, like he's such an avuncular kind of guy that, but he addressed it head on. I mean, there wasn't this issue of non-disclosure agreements, and you know, when Elizabeth Warren came in and said, "Well, Michael, you know, will you release all these women?" And by the way, how many women complained, and did you do deals? Did you have to give a deal to? And he wouldn't answer that question.
And he tried to make it better by saying, you know, these weren't really against me, except for maybe jokes I told, which everybody in the audience seemed to turn on him in that moment.
I mean, that was wild. And so, you know, what's unexpected, at least, you know, from my vantage point, is seeing kind of how Bloomberg comes up on the stage, and the other candidates are getting better at you know, highlighting what they have done in the past to address these things, and really calling him out on it, because until now, we haven't seen the candidates go after each other as fiercely as they have against Bloomberg. And I think it's interesting that, you know, Bloomberg once was a Republican, and that's a point that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden made. You know, while, you know, Michael Bloomberg, while you were out voting for George W. Bush, we were actually working to get Democrats elected to the Senate and to the presidency. And so I think that that's an interesting thing, because if you think about back in 2016, then candidate Trump was also getting a pile-on from other Republicans on the stage, because they said, you know, you once were a Democrat. And he was fending off those attacks.
My goodness, how times have changed.
They have changed, but it's the way I think that Michael Bloomberg has been responding or not responding, as opposed to Trump, who is not apologetic, who came back who counterpunched with the best of them, and really at the end of the day ended up winning. So I don't know. I think this is an interesting moment for the other candidates on the stage.
Yeah. Well, hey, Lynda, you know, we were talking before about what an interesting new strategy this was by Bloomberg to not enter into these initial races. But do you think that this is backfiring against him, because he's just not as fresh out on stage? It doesn't look like he's as warmed up as his other Democratic competitors.
Well, we know that Mayor Mike Bloomberg has not been on a debate stage since 2009, and that is on clear display tonight, for better or for worse. I think that it's still going to be just a moment in what is still going to be a very exciting couple of contests still ahead of us, not the least of which is Super Tuesday, those 14 states where he has focused the vast majority of the $400 million that he has already spent on the airwaves to make sure that he's able to compete on a level that will at least take them to a contested convention, if not allow him to be the outright nominee, depending on how things go with Bernie Sanders. I think, you know, debates take practice, and it's very clear that all of the other folks that are on stage tonight have had the chance to work out the kinks. And, you know, I certainly expect that we're going to get a lot more from Michael Bloomberg in the coming weeks.
Lynda Tran and Molly Hooper, thank you both so much.